Wow. Almost 80,000 people, over 270 events. You come from a background of some pretty old school research and diplomatic institutions. What led you to create something as open and collaborative as Bangkok Climate Action Week?
Well, firstly, David, thank you so much for having me here today. It's been a wonderful day and such a fabulous program you've pulled together. And I love that you homed in on the two things, the two qualities that really we were designing Bangkok Climate Action Week for, which is openness and the inclusivity, right? We really wanted to create a wide open space for everyone. So thanks for noticing. Your question, I think, invites a recounting of a journey, because this really has been a culmination of a journey. So please bear with me as I recount some. I won't give you my whole life story, but maybe some key stops on this journey. From being kind of gray-suited expert, global expert, walking the corridors of the UN and power, to navigating the klongs of Bangkok and trying to build a civic movement. So the first act, and by the way, the common thread here, I've always been in pursuit of the same goal, right? The goal being, what's motivated me throughout my adult life, working life, two passions. One is love for nature, and the other is outrage at the persistence of poverty and deprivation in a society, a civilization of material abundance. And I think I've heard a lot of the same passions here today. So that hasn't changed. That's what Bangkok Climate Action Week is still, in pursuit of. But what has changed over the time is really the what and the how, right? So the why has remained the same. And I think there are kind of three main chapters, right? The first chapter, which was most of my career, I was a technocrat. So I started as a diplomat, environmental economist, working in a number of international institutions, working kind of at the global level, and very much in service to this idea that if you equip powerful people with good information, good data, they will make good decisions, and better outcomes will result, right? And that's kind of a very top-down, elitist view of the world. And the high watermark of that was, I think, 2015, when we had the Paris Agreement and the Paris Climate Agreement and the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, both of which had been working behind the scenes as part of the processes leading up to those two outcomes. So that was a kind of a proud moment, like, yes, I'm doing the right thing, Here's the proof in the pudding. And the year after, you might remember, 2016, all this story came crashing down, right? It was a year where expertise got a global kind of rebuffing. we had things, seismic moments like Brexit, and we had the consequence, the outcome of the election in the US. It was a kind of global collective rejection of expertise and the idea that experts are ruling the day, right? So that was kind of a sobering moment, and it's been downhill since. The second chapter was really during COVID, and I think a lot of you will share this in common, right? It was a moment where everything came to a pause, and we saw the water for the first time. We were like, whoa, this is like, it was like the veil was lifted from the eyes. And it wasn't, I'm sorry to say this, but personally, it was a very productive and fruitful moment, because this is what a lot of the people who are working in systems change, like they wait for the reset button, right? So I was working a lot on basically shifting my theory of change, and started experimenting with various forms of outsider strategy, that we need to work from the outside, right? To shift, to put pressure on these same institutions to change. So one of the things that I did in my spare time was help a friend set up a climate startup called Hero Circle, which is motivated to equip the people doing the most important jobs in the world, which is activists, right? They are the guys who are the most effective, by the way, at pushing policy change. The powerful don't give up power willingly. They need to be pressured to do it, right? And so this Hero Circle was about equipping them with a basic income so that they could then do this job effectively. So that was a kind of second chapter. Third chapter was when I figured that, because I was still working in a global think tank, still servicing this idea, right, that you equip powerful people. And that was no longer tenable for me. And I realized that that I really had to quit my job in order to find my work. And that's what I've been looking for, and this is what Bangkok Climate Action Week, in a way, is answering, is the idea that it's not enough. You can't just send these young activists into battle on your behalf, right? We all need to be part of this change. This is something, and we heard that a lot today, right, from the previous speaker too. This relates to all of us, and we all have something that we can do about it. So really what I'm trying to do with Bangkok Climate Action Week and how I ended up here is the belief that is trust in us, all of us, and trust in the theory of change that if you equip, if you shift power and build strength outside of the systems that continue to trap and to fail us, that's the only way that we'll get to a better future.
And I got to participate in Bangkok Climate Action Week. Any others in the room that made it to events? I see quite a few hands up, and I was so impressed with how innovative it was. You know, I just never experienced anything like that, and something that scaled up so quickly like that in a very innovative way. So I'm curious, what for you is the connection between climate action and social innovation?
For me, it's absolutely innovation is, we need all kinds of innovation, right? Because we heard from a number of speakers today, including Dev, about how we need to get to the root cause, right? The root cause is that we have systems that reproduce bad outcomes. As long as we're solutioning within those systems, the best we're doing is sustaining it. And why would we want to sustain systems that are failing us, right? This is the paradox of the sustainability. And I don't like to talk about sustainability anymore because of that. It's been co-opted by the very systems it's purporting to change, right? So I prefer to talk about desirable development. Let's bring desire back into this, right? No one wants pollution. No one wants to live in a climate chaotic world, right? We want and we deserve and we can achieve better. So innovation is central, and I think there are kind of two. You know, often when we think of innovation, it's like, and this is part of our muscle, our reflex, right? But when we think of innovation, oh, it's a silver bullet idea. Innovators, experts are going to deal with this. There's a silver bullet, right? There's technological innovation will get us out of this pickle. I see innovation much more broadly, and the forms of innovation that I think are most needed: social innovation, cultural innovation. Social innovation, what we did is Bangkok Climate Action Week was open up the space and trust people to step in with their own agency, right, with their own ideas, not to kind of over-prescribe. And this is what I've been doing for, over 20 years. I realized that I'd been part of standing in the way of the action that I actually wish to see, right? Because when you're an expert, it's a very disempowering narrative. You're telling people, we've got the answers. You don't, just trust us. And this is flipping the script. This is saying, no. We trust you, right? We're going to open the space wide. We're going to curate the space for collaboration, for connection, for authentic expression. And we're going to trust you to step in and do what you want to do, right? And we trust it's going to be good. So that was one. Openness and designing for inclusion, collaboration, connection. Cultural innovation is key. And we heard from the performers, Ilya and the other performer just now. Culture is who we are, right? This is the most underused and endlessly renewable resource that we have, that we can tap into for the action, right? Culture. So cultural innovation, it was really like what we try to innovate against or innovate out of, why we need innovation in culture is because the prevailing culture is failing us. The prevailing culture tells us that we are competitive, we are separate from nature, that the only way to get forward is to tread on each other's heads, right? That culture will never get us to where we need to go. And culture is malleable. It's the stories collectively that we tell ourselves, and we need to come up with a better story. And so this is why cultural innovation is absolutely essential to Bangkok Climate Action Week, and why we try and engage the arts and cultural culture shapers and actors in Bangkok Climate Action Week. So the innovation that you've noted, David, is not from me. It's from the space that has been occupied, people who stepped into the space that we opened up.
Right, and you've often said that, climate action, part of what we need to be up to is helping people to find their own agency. And I wonder if you could share a story about when you've witnessed that.
I think you have a picture here of you see this boy. I love this. I love this moment. This was in the opening, and the whole thing was very emergent, like the whole story of Bangkok Climate Action Week. And in the opening, there was this lady who had done some work with young people, and they were in the audience, and so she called them up, and they came up, and they took the mic, and they wanted to express themselves, right? And the mic went round and went to this little kid, and he was tongue-tied, and everybody was like on the edge of our seats. We were like, oh gosh, poor boy, you know, he's like, he can't talk. And then he started fumbling, and everybody was feeling sorry for him. So the MC said, hey, you know, you can speak in Thai. And then the words just flowed, right? He had so much to say. He was so eloquent. He was smart. He was on the money, right? And for me, this is the great story of what we're trying to do, right? We all have something unique, right? That we can bring to the table. We all feel about this thing. We all care about building a safe world for ourselves. And the problem we've had is that we created a very difficult language that's been protected under. It's kind of we've hogged the action space by creating this impenetrable scientific language that if you don't speak that language, then you have nothing to say. And we wanted to, you know, the moment you say that, you need to meet people where they are, right? And the moment you do, the moment you say, you express yourself in your own language about this issue, look what happens, right? So this is like, and for me, agency is again, it's a technical word, right? It's like we're speaking technocracy language here. It's simply, you know, think about it simply as the range of options available to us to act, right? And the default options that are given to us as ways to act are inadequate, insufficient, right? It's like bring your own straw, bring your own cup. These don't add up to the systemic shift that are needed. These don't address the root causes, right? So agency, I think the first point about agency is ownership of the action. It has to come from you. It has to speak to who you are. Right, the point earlier about culture being the thing that we need to sustain because it's who we are. So it's been, you know, this whole thing has been so left brain centric, the whole climate action arena. And part of what we're trying to do with Bangkok Action Week and why we use the format of festival and arts and culture is because we want people to connect with the issue in a very direct and visceral and human way that goes beyond kind of the intellect. So ownership is one, right? Purpose is the other one. Like, another kind of very unsatisfactory element of the climate narrative, the dominant story that we tell ourselves about climate is that it is this global problem that little me has to like either suffer or do something about that will never add up to the change that's needed. It's very disempowering and it doesn't resonate. Like, why should I solve a global problem, right? I can't do much about it. And what we try to do with Bangkok Climate Action Week is reframe climate action, not as solving someone else's global problem that someone else created for us, but reframe it as choices that we all need to make about the kind of future we want for ourselves. And that is hyper-local, it's hyper-personal. And I think that's how you unlock agency. Last point I want to make about agency is you know, it's not, we don't always have to think about agency in individual terms. What we're trying to do with Bangkok Climate Action Week is unlock collective agency, because together we are much stronger. We can move mountains together, right? When we work together in unison. And the intelligence of the throng is so much more formidable than any one of us alone, right? So this is the diversity, the multiplicity is crucial to what we're trying to do. It's giving up space, it's giving up power, right? Experts, don't trust the experts. Listen to them. They've got useful things to give you. But don't let them ever tell you what to do. At best, they can equip you, right? We need to define for ourselves the action that we want to take.
And I love that you use the word festival, because that's really how it felt. Like, it was just such a high energy, and there was a lot of positivity, and there was a lot of people who, like you, at times, you know, kind of struggled to deal with the endless flow of, you know, negative information, and just finding that power in the collaborative and in the collective. So I wonder, you know, what of the lessons that you learned through this whole project do you think, for example, Chiang Mai could just adopt, and what do you think needs to be adapted for the local context?
I was rather coming here learning lessons from you guys because I think, whatever you're doing, it's working. I'm loving, everything that I've heard, and it's really speaking to what we're trying to do too, right? So I think the only thing I would share, I think, is design for radical inclusion, right? That's really the design principle that we had. Is that it's a bit like a city, if you design a city so that it works for kids and for old people and for disabled people, what you get is a city that works better for everyone, right? So if you design a festival, if you design a gathering for the people who don't usually get to speak, whose voices are not heard, but who are absolutely central to this equation, then you'll get a space that it feels welcome to everyone. And that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to open up the arena so that everybody felt that welcomed, not just, not talked down to by powerful people or by experts, but included and listened to and respected. What was your question again?
Question was, what do you think we could just sort of take wholemeal and just apply, whether it's Chiang Mai or other cities in Asia, and what do you think needs to be adapted to the local?
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is we're doubling down on culture. I think that and you have plenty of that, right? You had some great cultural acts here. So I think you've got what I don't think I have anything to teach you.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot because I'm going to ask you as a last question to offer, a challenge or invitation to our TEDx audience here. What would you like to leave them with?
In continuation of what I was saying, just, like the Nike advert, right? Just do it, right? I think you all are already, right? But this is, agency starts at home, right? Like the action, it all has to start with us and with us figuring out what is our passion, what is our leverage point on the things that we care about, and how do we activate that? What are the gifts that we have? We each have incredible gifts from our ancestors, from our neighbors, from our communities, from our upbringing, from the wisdom that has been imparted from spiritual leaders or the like, right? How do we use these gifts and apply it towards the thing that we care about? And it doesn't have to be a perfect answer, right? I think the thing is just get started. And this is going to be a journey. And let the journey transform you, because it will. Doing Bangkok Climate Action Week, we set out to do something transformative, and it ended up transforming most of us. It ended up transforming me personally in a very profound way. And so that's the beauty of it. A lot of people ask me, why do you're working on climate and change, and this is impossible thing. It's pushing this boulder up like a hill every day, and then you have to start again, or you reach the top and you see a landscape of forbidding peaks in front of you. What keeps you going? And I actually find that super exciting. The fact that if you stretch your moral imagination beyond the me now to a bigger us, a larger us and a longer now, and a better idea of what good life you want to be working towards, then it's a joyful thing, right? That it's not like, I got to push this big thing up the hill. It's like, yay, this is the adventure of a lifetime, right? So join the adventure. And for those of you who are already in the action, come to Bangkok Climate Week, use it. It has to be, if it's not useful for you, I'm not doing my work, right? So use it. Use it to connect and to collaborate, to learn, to go further and faster, right? And if you are already acing it, and a lot of you today, right, are doing solutions that are worth sharing, come, share your solutions, right? It's, in short, join us next year. Tentative dates, 4th to 11th of October in Bangkok. Hope to see many of you, and make it yours. It's not ours, it's not mine. It's really designed to be all of ours, right? So if you feel compelled, if you have something or even just a question or an interest or a curiosity, it's a laboratory, right? Feel free to be experimental. Come and try your thing.
Well, thank you for bringing the joy and inspiration to our stage.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leo.